You don't have to summon anything for it to listen. You don't have to believe in it for it to learn your voice. Sometimes all it takes is opening the wrong folder. Good evening, darlings. If this is your first time here, welcome. I am Horrormancer, mistress of the macabre and curator of creepy chronicles. And because I like you, I share the good ones. If you've been here before, well, I knew you'd find your way back. Before we begin, a quick housekeeping note. If you enjoy modern horror, digital hauntings, and stories that behave suspiciously long after they're finished, go ahead and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and more importantly, it saves me the trouble of having to find you again. Now, tonight's story. It begins the way so many contemporary nightmares do, with curiosity, a stable internet connection, and the quiet confidence of someone who thinks they know the difference between data and danger. Our narrator isn't reckless. She's not chasing demons or reading aloud from forbidden texts. She's a professional archivist. Someone who digs through abandoned servers, forgotten directories and digital decay, listening patiently to ghosts that insist they're just corrupted files. Because that's the lie we tell ourselves now, isn't it? That if something lives inside a machine, it can't possibly want anything. But before we descend too far, quick word from tonight's sponsor.
Have you ever lain awake at night wondering who could make the arrangements if tomorrow didn't come? Concerned that your loved ones might choose the wrong flowers or forget your wishes entirely? Then allow Harrow & Sons Funeral Pre-Planning to put your mind at ease. With Harrow & Sons, every detail is decided in advance, from the service and the hymns to the casket lining and final resting place. Our meticulous planners ensure that when the time comes, everything proceeds calmly, respectfully, and exactly as intended. No guesswork, no surprises, no awkward conversations at an already difficult time. A sensible necessity for forward-thinking individuals, devoted family members, and anyone who believes that the proper farewell should be planned with a clear head and a steady hand. Don't leave your legacy to chance. Arrange your future today with Harrow & Sons Funeral Pre-Planning. Pre-planning does not affect date or manner of death. Service is subject to availability, local ordinances, and acts beyond mortal control. Early planning may result in unsolicited dreams of church bells or freshly turned soil. Harrow & Sons Funeral Pre-Planning. It's never too early.
Tonight's story asks a very simple question. What happens when something hears you and decides it prefers you to everyone else? There are no cursed books here, no ancient rituals, no warning labels written in blood, just folders, audio files, images you don't remember taking, and a voice that sounds uncomfortably like your own. So dim the lights, check your reflection, only once, and then look away. Hey, I don't usually post on here, and I sure as hell don't like giving out my name. But for the sake of honesty, and maybe so someone out there believes me, call me Chastity. Yeah, I hate it too. My parents were Bible thumpers of the hand-raising, tongue-speaking, internet is the devil variety. I haven't spoken to them in years, and changing my name is still on my to-do list. Somewhere below renew my car registration and delete my old MySpace. So for now, it's Chastity. I work as a freelance digital archivist. That's a pretentious way of saying I dig through dead websites, abandoned servers, and old FTP directories to find weird, forgotten data. Ghosts in the machine. Sometimes it's for university history departments or indie game collectors. Sometimes it's just for me. There's something about digital decay that feels honest. No broken promises, just 404s and static. Anyway, last week I found a directory I shouldn't have. Not on the dark web, nothing that cool. It was just buried in the forgotten corner of an old Midwestern University's alumni archive server, still running on some ancient Unix setup. It had been indexed once, sometime in 2009, then never again. No firewall, no obvious owners, just empty paths and rusty metadata. Most of it was normal. PDFs of class schedules, scanned yearbooks, a creepy amount of orientation videos. But there was one folder. Orphaned Logic. No creation date, no owner, no file count listed until I opened it. That's when things started to go sideways. Inside Orphaned Logic were 6 subfolders, each with all caps names that sounded like someone trying way too hard to sound ominous. Echo Box, Campus Doc, Redline Audio, Visual Rec, Z Files, Dot Final Room. The last one was hidden by default. I only saw it because I have my system set to show hidden files. Rookie mistake, maybe. I opened it anyway. I started with Campus Doc. I figured it'd be an old admin paperwork dump or boring budget spreadsheets. Instead, it was filled with student psychological evaluations. Hundreds of them. All dated between 1996 and 1999. Most were incomplete. Scans of handwritten intake forms with the names blacked out, sometimes with actual marker, sometimes just crudely cropped. They all started the same way. Subject transferred mid-term after incident. What incident? No specifics. Just vague terms like group event, mass behavioural disruption, or collapse of boundary reality. It sounded like someone tried to describe a panic attack using conspiracy theory lingo. But the answers in the evaluations were worse. One subject wrote,
"My roommate kept forgetting who I was, every morning, but only in our room.
Another wrote,
I saw myself climbing the stairs in the dorm building, but I was still in bed."
The deeper I went, the more it felt like I was reading notes from a failed experiment. One marked escalated had nothing on it but a long red line drawn through the middle of the page and the word void stamped at the bottom like it was a parking ticket. Then I opened Visual Rec. That's when I should have stopped. The files in there were low-resolution JPEGs with file names that were just long strings of numbers. No timestamps, no EXIF data. I previewed the first one. It was the photo of a hallway. Fluorescent lights, normal dorm corridor. No people. But something about the angle felt off. Like the lens was slightly tilted, though the image was level. The next one was a photo of the same hallway, this time taken from farther back. Still empty, but the lights at the end of the hall were dimmer. The third one had someone. Maybe. A shape, I guess, just barely visible at the vanishing point. Too blurry to tell. Looked like they were standing still, watching. Or maybe facing the other way. I couldn't tell. I previewed 25 more. Each image zoomed in closer. Always the same hallway. The same lights. The same figure. Closer and closer, and the last one was black. But when I turned up the brightness, I saw something. The image wasn't blank. It was a photo of a monitor, My monitor. The one I was sitting in front of. I checked the timestamp. There wasn't one. I hadn't downloaded that image. I hadn't even previewed it yet. But there it was. I slammed the lid of my laptop shut. Like that would help. My pulse was hammering in my throat. I yanked the Ethernet cable, shut off the router, then killed the whole power strip. Total blackout. No hum, no LED glows. Just me, my own breathing, and the tick of the cheap wall clock that suddenly sounded way too loud. I've dug through a lot of digital graves. Old servers, defunct social media, forums with 3 users and a death wish. But this felt different. Not just forbidden. Not just broken. Wrong. I backed away from the desk. Just a few steps. Staring like I expected the thing to start whispering. And that's when the laptop screen flickered back to life. No chime, no fan spin up, no boot screen. It just turned on, like someone had touched the power button. But I was across the room. The screen lit up a cold, pale blue. I walked back over and lifted the lid to see better. It was not the login screen, not my desktop. Just a full screen preview window. The image from before. My desk. My chair. Empty. Except now there was something else in the frame. The door behind me. It was open. And I hadn't opened it. I whipped around. The door behind me, solid steel, ugly deadbolt, the kind you only install when you don't trust your neighbours, was shut. Not just shut. Locked. I stepped over, turned the knob, tested the bolt. Still engaged. Still dead silent in the hallway beyond. No draft, no click, no reason it should have looked open in that photo. Just to be sure, I slid the chain lock into place too. The old school kind you see in movies, where the psycho still kicks the door in. But it made me feel better. For a second, I just stood there with my fingers on the cold metal, trying to make the world make sense again. Maybe the timestamp was wrong. Maybe the picture was edited. Maybe my computer had some old internal webcam footage cached and I'd clicked it by accident. Maybe. But the laptop was still on. Still glowing that too bright blue. Still showing that empty room. Still showing my door. Still showing it open. I should have shut it off again. Should have wiped the drive and pitched the whole thing off my fire escape. But curiosity has teeth, and mine was gnawing at my spine. I sat back down, carefully. The screen flickered once as I touched the trackpad, like it knew I was back. I moved the mouse. The preview window closed on its own. The folder view was still open. I clicked on the next one. Echo box. Inside were dozens of short audio files. Waves, mostly. Each named after a student ID number or something like it. Random strings of letters and numbers. No metadata, no date modified, just raw noise. I picked one at random, less than 4 seconds long, and hit play. A burst of static, and then a voice.
Don't let it know you're listening.
My stomach dropped. Not because of the words, but because I recognized the voice. It was mine. I froze. There was no mistaking it. The cadence, the dry rasp at the end of my syllables, the way I hit the word listening like I'm apologising for speaking at all. That was me. But I had never recorded that. I don't talk to myself out loud. I live alone. I don't record voicemails. I barely leave voice memos. So unless I've started sleep talking into a university server from the late 90s, that clip had no business existing. I clicked another file. Couldn't help it. The next one was longer, 8 seconds. It started with what sounded like a hallway again. Echoey footsteps, distant hum of fluorescent lights. Then a woman's voice, faint, like it had been recorded through a wall.
There was never a room 213. We bricked it up in 97.
Click. Next file. 6 seconds. Garbled static, and then...
If you hear your own voice, shut it down.
Different voice. Low, male, like a warning whispered through a drain pipe. I clicked 5 in a row. Some were empty. Some had bits of conversation. Things that sounded like overhead phone calls or maybe therapy sessions with the silence scrubbed out. The voices overlapped. Some stuttered, some looped. And then one started with my name.
Chastity?
Just once. Soft, curious, like someone nudging a memory. I didn't recognise the voice. Not male, not female, just wrong. Filtered, digitised, flattened like a sound that shouldn't be speaking in a human register. I didn't open another one after that. Not right away, anyway. I sat back, let out a slow breath through my nose, and rubbed my temple like I was scolding myself. Okay, so maybe someone found this before me. Probably some bored grad student with a flair for horror and way too much time. AI-generated voices, system ID spoofing, scrap metadata from my RAM maybe. That voice clip of me could have been pulled from some old podcast interview or a voice sample tucked in a folder I forgot existed. It wasn't magic, it was just clever. A prank, then. A damn good one. Once I decided that, the fear backed off. Not entirely, but enough to breathe again. Whoever made this, they'd clearly put in the work. Might as well appreciate it. If you're going to get haunted, at least let it be by someone who knows their formatting. I clicked open the Z files folder. This one was different. No audio or images, just text documents. Dozens of them, all .text format. Each one had a title, like a journal entry or thought fragment. Mirror, mirror. I can't tell if they sleep. She left the light on again. Static feels warm now. One of them talks like my dad. I opened Mirror, Mirror.
They only use the mirrors when we're asleep. That's when they rehearse. That's when they get the phrasing right. I woke up during one. I saw myself staring back at me, but I was blinking too slow, like the timing was off. I stayed still. So did she. But she smiled. I didn't.
I snorted. Creepy. But theatrical. The next file, then. Static feels warm now.
If you lean close enough, it hums in a pattern, like Morse code. I put my hand against the screen last night, and it felt like a pulse. Not mine. The static has a heartbeat. I think I'm starting to understand what it's saying.
Another file. She left the light on again.
I tell her not to. I told her after the second time, but the closet light was on again this morning. I know she's not here. I know she's not anywhere anymore, but she keeps doing it.
I'll admit, my skin crawled just a bit on that one. Something about the absence, the resignation of it. But still, clever writing. Atmospheric. Whoever put this together must have lived on creepypasta forums. I half expected the next folder to just be a rickroll, but no such luck. Only 2 folders were left now, Redline Audio and the last hidden one, .file room. And if someone went through all this trouble, there was no way I was stopping now. I hovered the cursor over Redline Audio and pulled back. Not yet. I was still spooked, sure, but I wasn't stupid. If this was some kind of elaborate scareware prank or guerrilla ARG, I didn't want to get too deep without a witness. Plus, I knew someone who would absolutely eat this up. James. My boyfriend's the kind of guy who owns 5 different VHS to USB converters and has strong opinions about Slenderman lore. He runs a little blog cataloguing internet urban legends, lost media, and ARGs that never finished. If anyone would know what this was, or at least appreciate the weirdness, it was him. I powered the router back on, waited for the connection light to stabilise, then plugged back in. Nothing exploded, no smoke, no voices whispering through the vents, just the soft whirl of a fan kicking back into gear and the gentle hum of a connection re-established. I zipped the orphaned logic folder, password protected it just in case, and fired off a quick email. Subject: you're gonna love this cursed mess. Body: found this tucked in a university server graveyard. Creepy audio, weird photos, some real SCP vibes. Looks like someone's old ARG project. Take a look and tell me what you think. Password is The Void is watching. Love you. Don't open it after midnight. Unless you want cool dreams. I hit send, sat back and smiled a little. The chill was gone now. Mostly. Replaced by that warm, nerdy rush of finding something weird and passing it on like a campfire story. Just another ghost in the machine. And I wasn't alone in it anymore. Just me, James, and whatever weird art project some long-graduated psych major cooked up to scare future scavengers. Still smiling, I double-clicked Redline Audio. Redline Audio opened to reveal exactly 12 files. Each one was titled with a single word. Entry, echo, reverb, bleed, stutter, drain, cycle, tone, mirror, gate, silence, and redline. Cute. I appreciated the thematic commitment. Each was between 30 seconds and a minute long. Larger files than the Echo Box clips, uncompressed wave format. No tags, no artist, no comments. Just raw, unnamed audio waiting to be heard. I started with entry. It was quiet at first. Then a soft tone began to pulse. Low and rhythmic, like sonar in a flooded cave. After a few beats, something whispered just beneath the sound. I couldn't make out the words, but the pacing felt intentional, not random, like someone reading a poem in another room, muffled by a wall. I scrubbed back, tried again. Same thing, same rhythm. Next was reverb. This one hit like a feedback loop gone wrong. The voice was clear, though still distorted, and layered on itself so many times it sounded like a crowd chanting in sync, over and over, The same word echoed.
Stay. Stay. Stay.
I turned the volume down. Even filtered, it made the hairs on my neck stand up. The third one, bleed, was just a mess of warbled noise. Almost like tape that had been rewound too many times. A voice stammered behind it, glitching every few syllables.
They let me bleed through.
And then silence. Not an audio silence, like the whole room went quiet, as if my laptop had stopped existing for a second. It wasn't until my wall clock ticked again that I realised I had been holding my breath. I paused, saved the files off to a USB just in case. James was going to have a field day with this stuff. I played Cycle next. It sounded like a looped hallway recording. Footsteps circling, pausing, circling again. Just as I was about to stop it, the loop shifted slightly. One footfall landed too close to the mic. Then another. Then something scraped, like a hand brushing the mic surface itself. And then a new sound layered in underneath. My name. My voice. Breathing. I yanked the headphones off. Okay, that was clever. Well executed. Definitely pushing the limits of what I expected from a spooky prank. But it had to be a prank, right? Right? I looked at the remaining files. I was almost at the last one. Red line. No timestamp, no size listed, just the word. Like it was waiting. I wasn't ready for red line. Not yet. Instead, I queued up the next in line. Tone. This one started with a soft sine wave. Clean. Painless. The kind of sound you'd expect in a hearing test. Then a second tone joined in, just slightly out of phase. The dissonance made my jaw tighten. Between them, faintly, like it was buried in static, came the faint ticking of a metronome, or a heartbeat. Then a voice, quiet and even.
The tone changes when you sing.
I blinked, rewound, listened again. Same voice, same message. Only this time, the second tone wasn't out of phase anymore. It was perfectly in sync. I moved on to mirror. Heavy static, then silence. Then a woman's voice, slow and breathless, like she'd been crying, or running, or both.
She didn't catch me today. My reflection. She blinked too late. Smiled when I didn't. I covered the mirror with a towel, but when I came back, it was gone. Just the glass and me. But not me.
The static returned, but under it, buried deep, I heard breathing. Then a second pair. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One of them matched mine. One didn't. I paused the file and stared at my monitor's black bezel like it might answer a question I hadn't asked yet. Gate was next. It opened with metal, rusted, groaning hinges, footsteps on gravel, a recording taken outside maybe, then a faint voice, distant but unmistakably human, muttered,
They opened it. They shouldn't have. We closed it. We closed it.
The voice cut out. The next few seconds were filled with wind. Not natural wind. Wrong wind. Circular, cycling in on itself like it was spinning inside a tunnel. Something scraped the mic again, and then softly, a voice way too close.
One came through anyway.
I felt a chill run down my arms, sudden and full-bodied. I rubbed at my skin and told myself it was just good sound design. But part of me didn't buy it. Finally, silence. I expected nothing, but nothing would have been a relief. Instead, there was a faint hum, almost too faint to register, like when your ears ring in absolute quiet. Then a click. Then a new sound, something scraping along a hard floor. Slow, uneven. The kind of dragging you only hear when something can't walk properly. Then a whisper. Dry, brittle, inhuman.
Still listening.
That was it. No scream, no jump scare, just confirmation. Whatever this thing was, it knew I was there. There was only one left. Red line. The name alone felt like a challenge. Like a finish line I wasn't supposed to cross. But here I was, shoes tied, running full tilt. I sat up straighter, rested my fingers on the trackpad. The screen reflected faintly in the darkened window beside me. And I clicked. No fade in, no build up. The moment the file opened, it screamed. Not a person, not even an animal. It was raw data screeching, like every file in the archive had been funneled through the same tiny opening at once. Layers of sound crashing into each other. Voices, footsteps, static, alarms, words I couldn't parse. Words I almost recognised, spoken in too many voices at once. I tried to lower the volume, but the slider wouldn't move. The screen began to flicker. Not flashing, flickering, like an old film reel struggling to stay on frame. Then the visuals kicked in, even though there weren't supposed to be any. A window opened itself. Image viewer. It displayed a photo. Low resolution, black and white. A shot of my hallway. Same angle as before. My apartment door chained shut. Just like I left it. Except now, the chain was snapped, hanging limp. My hand moved before I told it to. I reached for the power button and slammed it down. The screen flickered once, just enough for me to see something moving in the photo. Something stepping over the threshold. Then the laptop shut off. No whirl, no sound, just darkness and silence. I sat there in the dark, motionless, with the laptop still warm between my thighs and my breath tight in my chest. The only light in the room came from the router. 3 soft green blips, blinking like distant stars. Everything felt heavy. The air, my skin, even the silence. I needed to move, just a little, just enough to prove I could. I stood, legs stiff, and crept towards the door, step by step. Half of me expected to hear the floorboards creak behind me, some delay in reality echoing after my own motion. But I made it. Pressed my palm to the cool metal surface. Locked. Still locked. I checked the chain with trembling fingers. Solid. Secure. No signs of stress. No break, no warp, no snapped links. Still intact. I let out a shaky breath. Half a laugh, half a sob. It was nothing. A mind game. A really, really good one. James was going to lose his shit when My phone rang. I practically leapt out of my skin. It buzzed violently on the desk, screen lighting up like a flare in the dark. James. Mobile. For a half second, I just stared at it. The thought crossed my mind. Irrational, stupid, instinctional. What if it's not him? But I answered. James? Static for a second, and then... Cass, Jesus, are you okay? I nearly collapsed. His voice was real. Shaky, worried, and blessedly normal. Yeah, I said. Yeah, I'm here, just had the shit scared out of me. Okay, listen, he said quietly, urgent. That file you sent. He paused. What? I asked. Did you open it? No, I didn't. I never got it. What do you mean you didn't get it? I asked, gripping the phone tighter. I sent the folder, password protected, full zip of everything. I know. I got the email, subject line and everything. There is no attachment. What? No attachment. And no password either. Just one sentence. He paused again. I could hear him pacing, the creak of floorboards under his feet. He was rattled. What did it say? There was a long silence on his end, then... You shouldn't have let her hear it. I blinked. What? That's all it said. In italics. No sign-off, no header. The message replaced my text body. And when I tried to reply, it bounced back, said the sender didn't exist. But I sent it from my main account, I said, my heart pounding. You've replied to it 100 times. I know, I checked. Your address isn't in my inbox anymore. It's like the whole thread vanished after I opened it. I looked back at the laptop. Still dark, lid halfway closed. I hadn't touched it since I shut it down. Jazz, James said, softer now. What the hell was that thing you found? I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure anymore that I'd found it. I was starting to think it had found me. I'm coming over, James said, firm now, no hesitation. Yeah, please? I'll be there in 20. Don't touch anything. Wasn't planning on it. We hung up. For a minute I stood there, the silence pressing in from all sides again. I felt like if I so much as breathed wrong, the laptop would turn back on by itself. I looked at it, still dark, still shut. Not a whisper of life. I picked it up gently, like it might bite, and set it down on the kitchen table. Lid closed. Power cord unplugged. Nothing connected. Just a machine. Just metal and circuits and keys. Then I walked away. I didn't go far. Just the couch, with the blanket pulled up to my chest and my phone clutched in my hand like a talisman. I left the lights on. All of them. Every so often I'd glance towards the kitchen, towards the laptop, half expecting to see it glowing again in the dark. But it didn't move, didn't flicker, didn't breathe, just waited. 22 minutes later, James knocked. I nearly cried when I opened the door. James stepped in, wrapped his arms around me without a word, and held on like he meant it. I melted into him, my forehead pressed against his hoodie, the weight of it all finally lifting just enough for me to breathe again. "I'm okay," I said, muffled. "I know, but you don't have to be. Not right now." We sat on the couch, side by side, legs touching. I told him everything. How I'd found the server, the folders, the Echo Box files with my voice, the photos, the audio clips. I didn't even try to sound rational. I just laid it all out piece by piece, like I was scraping it off my chest. To his credit, James didn't interrupt, didn't laugh, didn't even look sceptical. When I finally ran out of words, he nodded slowly. "That's wild," he said, eyes gleaming a little. "Sounds like something right out of r/no sleep. You remember that post about that one guy who downloaded the broken game and it started predicting his dreams?" I nodded, shakily. "This feels like that, except better written. Whoever made this, they went all in. AI-generated audio, facial reconstruction off your social media or Zoom history. Maybe even a little local mirror crash if they knew enough how to exploit your browser. Definitely used your mic and webcam at some point. Honestly, it's kind of genius." I gave him a look. "You're way too excited about this." He shrugged, still grinning. "Babe, creepy ARGs are my thing. If this turns out to be viral marketing for some new indie horror game, I'm gonna scream. In a good way." He stood and stretched. "All right, let's meet the star of the show." James headed into the kitchen, where the laptop sat untouched on the table like a closed book full of teeth. I stayed on the couch, my body wrapped tight in the blanket, eyes following him. He reached the table, hand outstretched. And I saw it. Reflected in the dark window above the sink, James moved. His reflection followed. But not quite at the same time. There was a delay. A beat, no more than a blink, but real. I saw him lean forward, and the reflection lagged, just a half-second behind, like it was waiting to be sure. My throat closed. "James," I said, too quietly. He didn't hear me. He was already lifting the lid. Nothing happened at first. Then he pressed the power button. The laptop chimed softly, the same boot-up tone as always. Comforting. Familiar. Too normal. He turned and walked back to the couch, cradling it in his arms like a cat, grinning. "Still just a machine," he said, settling beside me. I didn't answer. My eyes weren't on him. They were on the screen. It didn't boot into Windows. No login, no wallpaper. Just a black screen. Bare. Then the text started to appear. Not typed. Etched. Letter by letter, in a sterile white font that looked like old terminal console. "You're not her." James tilted his head. "Okay, weird." More text appeared below it. "I don't want you." He frowned now. "Is this part of it?" The cursor blinked. Another line appeared, faster this time. "Put her back." I felt my body go cold. James looked at me. "Jas, what is this?" But I couldn't speak. The screen cleared. All the text vanished. For one long second, nothing. Then a final line appeared, a line. She heard me. She's mine. The laptop chimed again, and then it shut itself off. No fan whirl, no shutdown screen, just on. James stared at the dark screen. Okay. I take it back. This isn't cool. It's been 3 weeks since that night. The laptop never turned back on. James tried everything. Battery reset, hard power, even cracking it open to check for loose connections. Nothing. Just a cold black brick. I brought it to a local shop a few days later. Told them it suddenly died while I was working. The guy behind the counter popped it open, blinked and said, Jesus. Motherboard was fried. Not just a blown circuit. Burnt. Melted in places. Like something inside had overloaded, but without a spark. No scorch marks on the shell. Just dead. They offered to recycle it. I let them. I haven't touched a server archive since. Haven't logged into anything but email. James says I'm still digitally spooked, and he's not wrong. I even started handwriting notes again. I know, who does that? But something still follows. It's not constant, not aggressive, just present. Every now and then, my phone will light up with a photo I didn't take. No notification, no explanation. Just there, in my gallery. A photo of where I am. Usually just moments after I've arrived. The most recent was me walking into my bedroom, keys still in hand. Taken from behind. Or I'll be playing music and suddenly a new track starts in the middle of a playlist. Something I don't remember downloading. Always short, garbled. Once it was just breathing. Another time it was my name, whispered 3 times before cutting out. James thinks it's some kind of lingering malware, a leftover script kit or rootkit. He wiped my phone, reinstalled the OS. Didn't help. I keep telling myself it's a virus. A prank. A corrupted cache I can scrub clean if I just find the right line of code. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I look over and see my phone screen pulsing faintly on the nightstand. Waiting. Just like the laptop did. I guess that's why I'm writing this. Not to scare anyone, not for karma, not even for closure, really, just... If anyone out there has seen anything like this before, let me know. Maybe it is just a virus. Some creepy AI experiment gone rogue. Something that got too clever with its scripts and decided I was interesting. But if it's something else, something older, something deeper, I'd really like to know how to make it stop. Or at least, how to make it forget me. Please. And that's where we'll leave it tonight. The story is finished. You can go ahead and unclench your jaw. If you made it all the way through that, congratulations. You have excellent taste and a very questionable sense of self-preservation. But go ahead and subscribe. You clearly know what you're here for. If the story got under your skin, tap the like button. And if something in tonight's tale followed you a little longer than it should have, leave a comment. I do love seeing which details linger. There are plenty more stories waiting. I have shelves full of them that are waiting their turn. Some are older, some are stranger, and a few have been very, very patient. I'll come back soon. I'll save something special for you. And until next time, my darlings, may harmony find you, and nothing else.